Let's talk about plagiarism. The word plagiarism is derived from Greek and Latin terms for kidnapping. Plagiarism is presenting the words or ideas of someone else as your own without proper acknowledgement of the source. If you don't credit the author of the source, you are committing a type of theft called plagiarism. When you work on research assignments, you will find supporting material from works by others. It's okay to use the ideas of other people, but you do need to correctly credit them. When you quote people, or even when you summarize or paraphrase information, you must acknowledge the original author. It is plagiarism when you buy or use a term paper written by someone else, cut and paste passages from the web, a book, or an article and insert them into your paper without citing them, use the words or ideas of another person without citing them, or paraphrase another person's words without citing them. Committing plagiarism is against the university's Code of Student Conduct, and the consequences are serious. Be sure you do the right thing. Here are 5 tips for avoiding plagiarism. Number 1. Use your own ideas. It should be your paper and your ideas that should be the focus. Number 2. Use the ideas of others sparingly, only to support or reinforce your own argument. Number 3. When taking notes, include complete citation information for each item that you use. Number 4. Use quotation marks when directly stating another person's words. Number 5. Take about 30 minutes and write a short draft of your paper without using any notes. It will help you think through what you want to say and help prevent you from being too dependent upon your sources. As we've seen, plagiarism ranges from copying word for word to paraphrasing a passage without credit and changing only a few words. Here is a sentence from a Pulitzer Prize-winning book entitled The Americans, The Democratic Experience, written by Daniel J. Boorstin. Still, the telephone was only a convenience, permitting Americans to do more casually and with less effort what they had already been doing before. Let's take a look at the use of this information in the papers of 3 students, Abby, Brian, and Chad. For each student's version, we will judge if he or she is guilty or not guilty of plagiarism. First up is Abby's use of the passage. In her paper, Abby wrote, "The telephone was a convenience, enabling Americans to do more casually and with less effort what they had already been doing before." Is Abby guilty or not guilty?
Guilty. This is plagiarism in its worst form. Abby does not indicate that the words and ideas belong to Boorstin, leaving the readers to believe that the words are hers. She has stolen the words and ideas and attempted to cover the theft by changing or omitting an occasional word. Shame, Abby, shame.
What about Brian? Here is an excerpt from Brian's paper. Daniel J. Boorstin argues that the telephone was only a convenience, permitting Americans to do more casually and with less effort what they had already been doing before. Is Brian guilty or not guilty of plagiarism?
Guilty. Even though Brian acknowledges his source, this is plagiarism. He has copied the original almost word for word, yet he has not supplied quotation marks to indicate the extent of his borrowing. Work a little harder next time, Brian.
Finally, let's take a look at Chad's work. Daniel J. Boorstin has noted that most Americans consider the telephone as simply, quote, a convenience, end quote, an instrument that allowed them, quote, to do more casually and with less effort what they had already been doing before, end quote. Is Chad guilty or not guilty of plagiarism?
Not guilty. Chad has done a good job. He has identified his source at the beginning of the paragraph, letting readers know who is being quoted, and has provided an in-text citation directing them to the exact page of the statement. He has paraphrased some of Boorstin's words and quoted others, but makes it clear to the readers which words are his and which belong to Boorstin. Nice work, Chad!
Chad is on his way to getting an A. Abby is on her way to Dean Singleton's office. Perhaps Abby and Brian should have asked a librarian for help.